going on, everybody? It's Astros here, and welcome back to the League of Legends Anonymous Podcast, episode 233. I'm here with an unexpected duo partner. This is the new tag team duo, I guess. How you doing, Double?
I'm chilling. It's Double Sniff. It's your boy Double Sniff, duoing with all the people, heartbreaking, breaking people's hearts, doing what I do, how it is.
So, how's your week been, bud? What have you
My
been up
fuck,
to?
oh my god! All right. So you know the movies where like the kid finds like the alien rock, or something happens, and or the mystical scroll, and like wakes up and finds himself having superpowers and shit. I think that happened to me when I went to Jersey Mike's, because I ate a Jersey Mike sandwich about 10 days ago, and it must have been like a Team Liquid sponsored magical Jersey Mike sandwich, with the pepper relish. You got to get the pepper relish on the Jersey Mikes. And I went from like platinum 4 to platinum 2. I lost 3 today, but before that, I was rocking like a 9-game win streak and then a 5-game win streak with one loss in between, just crushing it. So I don't know what the hell happened, but I had an incredible run. Found myself higher than I've ever been elo wise.
I had a,
So
I had a,
pretty good.
s- I had a similar thing. I hopped from Plat 4 0 LP to Plat 3 in 9 games with 2 off rolls.
Yeah.
So I
It
had the
may
same
also be
thing.
because I had a Korean foreign exchange student move in, and I've been leaving League like open on my computer. Um, that might have something to do with it. I'm not. It's either that or the magical Jersey Mike sandwich. I think it's one of the two. I think it's the sandwich though. I'm
Well,
pretty
what
sure
if
it's the
it's
sandwich.
both just kind of mixing together?
I don't feed the kid. Oh wait, what if that son of a bitch ate my magical sandwich? I'm gonna have to
Well,
whoop his
wait,
ass.
wouldn't you know? Wouldn't you know if you ate the sandwich?
Well, it's a big sandwich. I mean, I'm fat, but I can't eat a whole Jersey Mike's. I mean, you gotta leave a little nugget not for later. You
Well,
gotta break up meal into 3 chunks, so I'm not like morbidly obese. Been a good
you,
week. Been a good week. A lot of sandwiches. A lot of winning.
I mean, I guess that's the best week you can really have when it comes to like being a League of Legends player.
I can't imagine anything better. It's got whatever week I had. No matter what happens, it was better than TSM's week. So I'm feeling better than those guys for sure. Spoiler
If
alert.
you want to take my podcast that I run on the side and just do it now, you're gonna have to fight me on it.
No, I don't watch enough. I only watch the highlights, although I did watch the entire LCS finals. I was hosting a surprise birthday party and it was on in the background. So a lot of people got to make fun of me for nerding out, and I got to explain to some people how wave manipulation works, even though they had no idea what League of Legends is. They now know how to manipulate a wave, which is more than your average bronze player. So I will take credit for
It's
that.
more than my average top laners.
Fair enough.
If you are interested in hearing about the playoffs for
Playoffs?
NALCS, I will be doing an
Playoffs?
episode directly after this that'll be uploaded by Friday morning.
Boom.
So you can head over there. It'll be on the LOLA YouTube. It's a YouTube only podcast for
Mm,
now.
exclusive.
It's exclusive.
Super
Exclusive, but
exclusive.
still free.
Subscribe to PewDiePie. Don't forget to do that while you're on YouTube.
So, so you had a topic you wanted to talk about a little
I
bit
did.
today.
I did. And I'm gonna give a little bit of a backstory about this. Like, one of the things I kind of harp on is you want to try to consume, as if you're trying to learn and you're trying to be taught, getting a lot of different sources of information is in my opinion a really important thing, because you never know how, one lesson that's told you in a specific way can be so much more impactful. Like, and I was playing with these I found these crazy ass Marines that are actually in North Carolina. I live in North Carolina. They're all in Camp Lejeune, and they were funny as hell. And these bunch of Marines playing on base, and I started playing a bunch with them. And this Thresh who was playing there, he made a comment about my play. He was like, "Hey, dude, man, like, you need to pay better attention to your priority. Like, you can't just go into scuttle crabs, like, And that's all he said. He was like, "Hey man, you need to pay better attention to priority." And that was, I had no idea that was such a huge weakness in my game, and it sparked something in me. And that's kind of been one of the bigger differences in what I've been doing, is trying to really utilize priority, and especially with the jungler, and getting my mid and my top laners and bot laners to recognize it as well. So that's sort of the topic that I had, but that's how I got there. Is like I had this aha moment just because somebody was like, "Hey, you should pay more attention to priority," and you never know where these lessons are going to come, and that obviously helped me a lot fix a big hole in my game, and I saw my win percentage skyrocket as a result of it. So priority, in case you don't know, is um, basically the more practical way to explain it is you push is when you have your enemy pushed to their tower and they can't leave without missing farm. Um, I like to think of it as a positional advantage as to who can leave first. So when I'm going for scuttle crabs, one of the things I need to look for is if I have priority and I meet the enemy jungler there, my guys are going to have the first jump on it, and we can have a 2v1 before we have a 2v2. Because that mid laner is going to come eventually, but it's just a matter of putting them in a bad spot there. And I think that's a really good important thing to realize is if you're jungling, paying attention to priority, and if you're laning, make sure that when you have priority, utilizing it correctly and trying to set yourself up to have priority around these objectives. Um, I know you play a Kali who's got some pretty good wave clear, and you play mid, which this is a pretty important topic for mids, especially because of the roaming factor. So what do you think about priority? Did I miss anything,
I
or
mean,
what do you think about it?
you pretty much got like what it is. So mid priority is based off of where the wave is positioned, who can leave the lane and respond to map pressure first. So if I'm mid lane and the wave's in the middle and my jungler pings that he wants to go do crab, or he wants to invade the enemy's top side because he's got better 1v1 power on the enemy jungler. Um, what I need to do in that situation and put myself in a position where if I needed to, I can be the first one to go, or I can stop my laner from going. And sometimes stopping the laner from going and following, whether it's by engaging in a trade or like hard shoving it into tower and focusing tower damage, you don't always have to be the one to leave lane first, because sometimes you leave lane to answer it and like nothing happens. Your jungler backs off, or maybe he gets the crab, and it's like you got to depict which play is actually worth at that moment, which is kind of like the hard part, because I've been the jungler and it's really easy to say like, oh, you had the wave shoved up, you should have just came, like. And then now that I'm a mid laner, sometimes it's like, well, if I leave, I lose the opportunity of solo killing my laner on a rotation. And okay, you have to give up the crab, or you can't go invade the enemy's top side for a camp or two. But I've increased my lane pressure to a point where next time I don't really need to worry about the wave as much. I'm even more of a factor in 2v2s or 2v1s in that scenario. Um, I've noticed a lot that junglers expect, no matter where the wave is, they expect you to follow. There's been countless times because Akali's wave clear is decent once you have 3 points in Q, because early on you get 2 Q rotations before you're out of energy, and if you waste your W just to get another Q rotation off, you have no spells up when you go to meet your jungler at whatever he's trying to do.
Yeah.
Um, but there's been times where I'm all the way under my turret. It's a double stacked wave because I forced a recall, or I force shoved it under the turret so it bounced back to me and it slow pushed back. But I can't afford to give up that XP, and just because you're being forced to give up XP, it's not XP that you absolutely need.
Yeah.
Like a mid laner or a top laner or a bot laner or a duo losing out on a wave and a half of experience is a lot more than a jungler losing out on a crab or losing out on an invade opportunity, especially with like turret plating being in the game. Super early, it's not as impactful because turrets have the enhanced resistances where they take like almost no damage. But once that falls off, your turrets are really vulnerable. And I find when laners are really leaving lane and pushing in objectives with their jungler is usually after those resistances fall off. Around second blue buff spawn, third blue buff spawn, around that area is when you really start leaving lane more to help your jungler.
Yeah, and there's a lot to factor into. I mean, I know some of the things that I'm looking for are you need to, at a base level, understand the matchups of the lanes that sort of sandwich you, because most of these encounters are going to happen either in the river or in between two different lanes, be it mid lane and bot or mid lane and top. So you've got to understand what those laners are doing, when their power spikes are, and what they bring to the table as well. For example, let's say my enemy mid laner is a Lux, and I'm trying to fight in the Scuttle Crab. Well, Lux doesn't really have to leave that much. She doesn't need as much priority to still impact that fight because she's got such a long range ult. Same thing with the Zerath, or if you've got a Gangplank up top. So these are things you also want to factor in too. Is that there are plenty of champs that even though they're shoved in, can still take a minor detour and contribute to a fight or turn a fight in your way. So it's not just I want to warn people that it's not just, oh well, they're shoved into tower, they've got no priority. You've also got to factor in what these matchups are, what they're trying to do, and what they can bring to the fight. An Anivia is versus a Zed is going to be very different. If an Anivia gets to the fight a little bit sooner than a Zed, that's great. If she misses her cooldowns and Zed ults you, that's going to be a very bad day. Because different champs can pop off in different ways. But it's something to pay attention to. If you're a jungler and you find yourself, in losing these river fights, and you're watching your replays, getting your replays looked at, take a look at what's happening. If you're getting 2v1, and that's impacting your gameplay, take a better look at what kind of lane priority you've got and timing your windows around those things. And again, if you're mad at your jungler for dying all the time, are you rotating? I lost a game a few days ago where my Renekton pushed his Hecarim out of lane, and I ran into a Xin Zhao over the river bush. I'm like, great, easy 2v1. And stupid ass Renekton just decides to try to chip away at a first plate that he was never going to get. And by the time he decides to rotate down, Hecarim beat him to the punch from Fountain. It's like, I don't mind if you don't want to rotate, but you need to ping me that you're not going to rotate, because at a plat level, I'm expecting you to know that you need to do that, or at the very least tell me that you're not going to do that. So if you can't rotate or you don't feel like you can make it, that's cool too. Just you want to communicate that to your jungler, especially if they're in a position where they're counting on you. And that's in solo queue, that's a huge thing too, because especially at the lower levels, if I'm playing on an alternate account, if I've got like a Talon that ditches his lane to come help me out, I'm going to remember that this player is good. That is a sign of skill to me as a jungler, and I'll be like, oh, okay, I have 4 random people on my team. This guy made a smart play. He made the right play. I'm going to probably prioritize his lane in my ganks, because he's not going to screw them up. In a solo queue as a jungler, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for obviously nobody on the team is as smart or as skilled as I am. And that just goes without saying. I mean, same with you. Even if we duo, there's nobody that's better than you.
I don't
So
know about that.
you got to find the one player that's at least somewhat close to your intelligence level and try to boost them as much as you can. But
A big thing to think about as a jungler, that not a lot of junglers do know, I struggled with it as a jungler, is if you've been a jungler for a while, you have an idea of what champions are good just based off of the meta, but you don't understand like the fundamentals of and the complexities of those lane matchups. So if I'm a Kali into Yasuo, like that's a matchup I feel really comfortable in, and I feel like I win it like 9 times out of 10. And you know, and that's fine, but you can't just impact it off of, oh, we're gonna be 2v1ing this fight. You have to think of it as a 2v2. Or if you're fighting at the top river, it could become a 3v2, and now you're outnumbered because your mid laner has prio, but your top laner has just recalled and he doesn't have TP. Or maybe he's making a TP play bottom. Like, part of it, I think, of why junglers overstep and become too aggressive without priority is from lack of map awareness. And I think the
Hmm.
reasons laners don't rotate in opportune times is from lack of map awareness. And people just wanting to think like, I'm here to help myself. I'm here, like, I'm the reason we're gonna win this game, etc., etc. If I go here, I'm sacrificing, a wave of XP, and maybe I'm playing a champion where that wave of XP is gonna be the difference between me 1v9ing, like, and that's what I think in my head. Um, League is a lot more of a 5v5 game now. It's really really hard to 1v9. Like, even if you're smurfing, like, it gets to a point where you put challenger players in silver, gold games, they'll drop a few. And coordinated teams that work really well together, and not just in the sense of a 5v5, but off of the sense of just lane synergy in general, like who's working together and not playing solo, really makes a big difference. And using your lane priority to, not even just go and help your jungler. Can you make a roam top lane? Can you make a roam bot lane? Can you play in fog of war and force and relieve pressure that way by not being on the map, visible, looking like you could be roaming, and now
Yep.
the other lanes have to back off. There's a
Which is
lot of different things you can do that creates pressure just based off of the pressure you have in your lane, without you having to be, this crazy talented player to pull them off.
Yeah, you don't. They don't let you sort of put the whole team on your back as much. I mean, you can have those hero moments where like you kind of carry a crucial team fight, but if you're trying to for 30 minutes carry 1v9, it's definitely been a lot more difficult. And that's sort of, I understand that they don't want that to happen, and I think they've gotten to a much better place. It doesn't, for like the last year up until about a few months ago, up till this season really, like my biggest criticism was that, maybe it's a low elo thing. It's that the best player doesn't win the game as much as the worst player loses the game. It's like not about who has the best or whatnot. It's like if you have the worst player on your team, you lose, um, no matter what. Regardless of how well the other four players play. And I do think it needs to be a situation where the best player should be winning. Now sometimes they take advantage of your worst player, but at the same time, you should be able to overcome that. And I feel like the meta's in a really good spot for that lately. It also might be because I'm climbing a little bit and I'm playing with more consistent players, so it's easier to develop synergy. Um, because I can predict. I'm like, I have an idea of what the right play is, and I'm like, okay, if this is the right play, and my mid laner, who I've never spoken to, who I've never, I have no comms with, also understands that that's the right play, our chances of clairvoyantly connecting and doing that are much better. The more consistent minded you are, because I do think there's a general meta on understanding the game and what is the right play in most of these situations. So something to think about, and a concept that is pretty, it builds off of map awareness, it builds off of these things. But it's definitely been that was sort of a key moment, in my growth as a player, that gave me a lot of it fixed a lot of problems with me in just mindlessly going on autopilot and trying to take objectives. And it's not just scuttle crabs too. I look at priority to go see if I can pop a ward in. If I've got good priority, if we got a double kill bot, I'm gonna ask my support, hey, come with me, help me clear vision, help me drop vision. Let's let's turn this miniature advantage and the gold advantage and the tower plate advantage into something that's going to carry over for the next couple of minutes as well. Um, so be thinking about that too. As a jungler, you need to step out of the laneless mentality and say, okay, I'm sitting here clearing this Gromp. What's my mid laner doing? Oh, he's got something pushed to tower, or they just won this fight and forced them out of lane. Maybe I ping him, say, hey, come with me. Let's minion crash dive top. Let's do these things, because it's those types of plays, the big plays around the 8 or 9 minute mark, that really sort of mentally shut down your opponent. And if you can get them eh, into that tilted defeatist mentality, that does more work than almost anything else. Because if you can get that other team fighting each other or complaining about each other, then the battle is almost certainly won at that point, because they're fighting each other and they're fighting you at the same time, and that's always going to be a lot of work.
Yeah, and maybe this is like a weird way to think about it, but I think junglers think of themselves as a totally different player than a laner. Which in the way you play the game is correct. You aren't CSing and trading with a person, 24/7. You don't have a lane to manage, but you aren't your own kind of person, and you need to think of yourself as this, like, every lane that you have is actually, like, in a way your lane. And like, but your actions are depicted based off of everyone else, especially as a jungler. Like, you don't have direct effect from every other role as you do in comparison to being a jungler. Like, if you're a top laner, what your bottom lane is doing isn't as, like, directly impactful, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely
um
does, and you're absolutely right.
so you can't just worry about like one lane or two lanes. You have to worry about all three. And you have to worry about your team. You have to worry about the enemy team. You have to worry about where the enemy jungler is. If you're not seeing them and you're pushing for a crab, what are you giving up if you go for this play? Like, League is so macro heavy now, and it's not so much about just raw mechanics. And you don't have to be this insanely mechanical player in order to grow and climb elos. If you look at Antibot is a Masters Challenger player almost every season, and he plays Annie, like one of the easiest champions to play mechanically. Like,
I mean,
if
ls
yeah,
ls says that you can get the diamond on Annie, learn all the fundamentals of the game on Andy. um you know so all 10 people out there listening, we just made a bunch of 10 new Annie mains. But yeah,
and
no, I didn't know if you were done with your point.
no, you actually were leading into something I was going to bring up. So, I recently was Ellis was doing a coaching thing. He was, doing some stuff, and I was listening, and he was doing op.ggs, and people were sending him their op.ggs, their, you know bronze, silver, gold, plat, diamond mid laners playing LeBlanc, Yasuo, Kassadin, like all these champions that your execution is really, really important on your ability to succeed. So these guys have been, stuck in their elos for 2 seasons, 3 seasons, and he's like, well, you don't understand the game. I recommend you play 150 to 300 games on Lissandra or Annie, and then come back to me when you actually know what League of Legends is. And you kind of think about it, it's like, well, that's a little harsh. I mean, you got these Diamond 2, Diamond 1 players who are in the top 1% of league players in NA at least, and they're getting told that they don't understand the game. And then you think about it, it's like, well, you think about Annie, Lissandra, build paths are pretty straightforward. Their mechanical play is based around Annie's passive, which is a 4-part stun. And who are you Lissandra ulting? Are you Lissandra ulting yourself? Are you Lissandra ulting their tank so he can't CC your backline? Like, and Lissandra was like a big reason why I think I hit Plat 3 in such few games. I played 5 games of Lissandra and I won 4 of them. One, I had a jungler just kind of run it down on me at level 2.
Mm.
Not in like terms of like hard inting, but he just hard screwed my lane up like multiple times pre six and just kind of spiraled. Their jungler got super ahead. I fell super far behind. Just one of those games where it's like, all right, whatever, go next. But I actually realized like, despite me CSing on a mage, which I've always really struggled on, my CS numbers were up. I was solo killing my opponent a lot more than I was when I was playing things that weren't LeBlanc. Something just had raw burst potential. Um, I was getting like 4 turret plates in lane every time, and a lot of the times when I'm laning, I'm prioritizing roaming just based off of like the fact I'm playing LeBlanc and Akali a lot.
Hmm.
Um, and it kind of made me think about the game differently. I was paying attention to my map more because I didn't have to worry about what mechanical play I'm gonna do if they do X, Y, and Z. Lysandra, I'm gonna W and claw out, or I'm gonna start my claw animation, finish clearing the wave, and then go back to my claw and recall. Uh, and it just made it slowed down the game in a way that I could focus on everything that I tried focusing on before, but the champions I was doing it on made it so instead of being able to put 75% of my game focus into that X thing, I was only putting 50 into it because now I have to worry about 25 of what I'm going to do in this situation, as well as 25 of just basic macro and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I feel like a similar situation. One of the best advantages of why I play Warwick a lot is because he's got so much built-in sustain. So mechanically, I can AFK farm. All I need to do is come back and use my Q from time to time. There's not a whole lot of mechanical stuff going. So if I'm fighting a solo camp, one of the buffs, one of the gromps, um, chickens I kind of have to pay attention to. The wolves a little bit, but I can use that downtime to scout around the map. If I was using a kindred where I had to constantly be kiting and doing all those things, you kind of have to pay attention to where you are. So that's one of the benefits of using a champ that doesn't require so much APM when you're farming, mental APM or physical too. Um, and one of the things that tips that I've been using is I've been using my F1Es, F1 through 4 a lot more. That's been a big issue for my map awareness because I found that can't remember where I read it or heard about it, but for some reason F1 binds to you, but you have the space bar, and I never know why. I don't know why I never thought of this, but somebody's like rebind your keys so that F1 is top, F2 is mid, F3 is ADC, and F4 is support. And I was just like, oh my god, that makes everything so much easier. So while I'm farming, I'm actively looking around the map um, for those things, and having a champ that allows me to sort of divide my attention has made my map awareness go up so much more as a result of
So I think now we can kind of fuse into our next topic that I think we wanted to
why
talk
we
about.
hate LS. I hate that son of a bitch. No, I'm just kidding. I
I
don't think.
love LS. He's
Dude,
a
I hate his
fucking
voice. His
genius.
voice. He is. He just like that guy needs like a tracheotomy, and just like I would watch his channel a lot more if he had the robot voice. His voice just makes me want to punch a penguin. Like I could not, like I don't even understand how that works. His voice just drives me absolutely insane. But smart guy, very talented fellow.
So you want to go into the other topic we wanted to break down? Did you have anything else you wanted to hit on about priorities or
No, I
anything?
think we covered the most of it. Just sort of in summary, if you're not using priority or understanding priority, try to pay attention to those sorts of things and figure out how you can coordinate with your team around these windows of opportunity. And the more you practice it, the more innate it's going to become, and the more instinctual it'll become, and you'll just find yourself making these killer plays without even realizing it. You're just like, holy shit, we all made the right play. And it's like, great. And then you climb and find yourself with people who are more likely to make the great play, and you continue to climb. I think that's what's happened to me, hopefully. I'm sure I'll demote back to gold one by the next podcast, so we'll see what happens.
Just don't play ranked and it won't happen.
Or I could just play on
A secondary account.
Oh shit! Segway, professional segue.
So I have talked about my thoughts on the idea of smurfing. And Jesus Christ, my Twitch alerts are blowing up and I can't stop
Boom.
it.
Thank
Um,
you, Lord.
Sorry, podcast listeners, by the way. I don't know if they're going to be able
Mm.
to edit that out.
Anybody who loves Jesus Christ should forgive you.
So I've talked about before that I really hate Smurfs, and I don't know if I ever went into like super detail what I meant by that. So I know a lot of people who keep accounts in low elo on purpose, um, like diamond plat players keeping accounts in silver or bronze or iron or blah blah blah, like wherever they keep them. And I think that's like a really like just unfun way to play the game. So I had a mini thing where I finished leveling up my second account. I played it for almost a month only. Uh, Probably not even. I'm actually gonna pull up the op.gg for it. So I played 45 games, 35 of which I played on Akali because I really wanted to make that my main champion. I wanted to do it way back, and then it just kept getting banned by like Why is Papa Smurf and everything before the season started.
What an
So
asshole.
I dropped it, and that's when I was playing like Yasuo LeBlanc, just because I already had a basic understanding of those champions because they haven't super changed. But Akali got like a full rework, and I never really got to play it.
Hmm.
And what I did on that account was I finished promos, and I played a ton of games until I felt like I was ready to go back to my main account. So that account ended up getting placed bronze 1, and I played and played and played. I didn't leave it sit in a lower elo so I could go back to it and play on it and just, you know, do the normal thing where you see like, oh, crazy Yi play when you find out the guy's a diamond Yi main playing in gold. And it's like, well, like there's just no benefits of me playing on a lower elo just to stomp. Like I like carrying, but I don't like carrying if I'm doing it against people who are nowhere close to my skill level. So I got the account up to gold, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go back. I'll probably finish getting that account up to plat. If I start stagnating again on my main, I'll just go and I'll play a bunch of games until I get to plat, and then I'll go back to my main. Um, but what I used it for was I wanted to focus on one champion. I wanted to focus on CSing. I wanted to focus on looking at my map, rotating when I need to, uh, not over rotating and over roaming, and focusing on getting some turret plates if I can, going up, denying resources from the enemy jungler, or getting deep vision. Just playing a more smart game while playing a mechanical champion that I'm interested in. And I think if you're going to make a secondary account for that, I don't have an issue with it as long as your plan is to continue it up to pretty close to your normal elo, and just not using it to go and stomp low elo people when you're just looking to like hard carry, I guess.
I'm with you on that. I mean, the bottom line is this: like, we live in a world where Smurfs are just gonna be there, and they always suck. You know what I mean? It's a fundamental part of the game that, especially in the lower, in the lower elos, you're going to encounter these players that are, better than you, and it's going to ruin, the games. And it is the worst to be in that situation. It's just, I think it's a matter of, and to the person getting smurfed on, they don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's another thing. It's like, do they give a shit whether or not you're going to carry on all the way, or that you're doing it for the right reasons? They're never going to encounter you again. So they're going to be pissed off no matter what. But it's just a part of life. Life is not fair all the time. Just don't talk shit. That's my problem with Smurfs. If you're fucking 85% win rate down in gold, and you're obviously playing against people that aren't as skilled as you at the game, then you don't need to rub it in their face that you're better, because like the bottom line is essentially you're playing basketball as an adult against 5-year-olds. So, you want to if you reject little Jimmy and give him the Dikembe Mutombo wag of the finger and get up in his face, that's what that looks like to me. Um, I've been playing on my alternate account a little bit because I think it's very similar along to what we talked about earlier about slowing the game down and sort of playing, like I was talking about with Warwick, like because I have sustain and I don't have to concentrate on this aspect, I am able to focus on other aspects. And if I'm playing against a full-fledged team, a squad of higher caliber players, I can't do that. I have to like stay focused on what I'm staying focused on. So going on to my alternate account gives me an opportunity to slow the game down. It also gave me a really good opportunity to work on some of my shot calling. A buddy of mine got his account hacked, and got it Riot booted it. He had a bunch of champs, and he was in gold, and he just now started playing again. He got so pissed off, and he hit me up and said, "I'm thinking about playing League again." So I've been duoing with him, and it's one of the best ways to learn things is to teach things. Bottom line, that's always the way it works, in my experience. So duoing with him in comms, forcing myself to sort of also help him get better has helped me like understand the calls that I'm making. And it's forced me to make calls that I don't necessarily vocally think about. You know what I'm saying? And when you do that, it forces your brain to operate, and it forces you to think about the game in a different way. Um, which ultimately always is going to help you refine your understanding of the game, because we'll get a kill and he'll start wandering off in this direction, and I'm just instinctually like, no, no, this is where we should go, this is why we should go there. And those understandings, when they pan off in lower elo, I can slow down and kind of explain that. And by doing that, I think the more you do stuff like that, the more it's going to be ingrained in your own um, training or your own growth as a player. Does that make sense? Like, I mean, I think you coach hockey. I've been involved in like armored combat and sword fighting for a long time. And, I don't know if you still play hockey, but at the same time, if you're telling a kid, hey, you need to rotate your hips more on your on your slap shot or whatever fundamental skating technique. Hey, you need to do this particular technique. It makes you wonder. It's like, oh shit, man, am I doing that in my technique? I need to fix that too. And it's an environment for you to kind of, when you're helping others, to sort of evaluate whether or not you're being a hypocrite. It's like, oh shit, I'm sitting here telling him that we need to rotate. I'm not doing. And it gives you an opportunity to sort of evaluate your own play in a much lower stakes environment.
So a big thing you kind of touched on there is forcing yourself to think about what you should do. And what a lot of people do when they're on secondary accounts, they'll claim like, "Oh, I'm learning a new champion," or "I want to try a new build," or "I'm trying a different role," blah blah blah, is unless you are really hard on yourself on focusing on your gameplay, you're gonna go into autopilot mode 95% of the time.
Hmm.
And I mean, I found myself drifting off into autopilot mode a couple times, especially at like the really low elos where I'm rotating when I don't need to rotate just because I know I can pick up a free kill at this rating. And I mean, it was bad, but I noticed that. And I instantly corrected it. I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. I'm going to talk myself through what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. If it doesn't go well, I can rewatch it and be like, well, I decided to do this, but in hindsight, I should have done this. Or I shouldn't have done anything and I should have stayed where I was and not forced anything. And the whole thing of if you coach, you instantly become better. It's true. So I do coach ice hockey. I coach kids from 10 years old to 14 years old, and I pretty much am strictly a skating coach at this point. Just because they're at the age now where they understand the basics of shooting, stick handling, passing. That's all stuff they can work at home, and I can give them drills to do. I give them all that stuff, but on the ice, I coach positioning and I coach skating technique. And the more you coach skating technique, the more of a better skater you become, because not only are you getting your own reps in, you're talking about it, and you're focused on the little adjustments that you can make in order to do it even more efficiently. So what I like to do is, if I have a kid who I know the drills are, you know, say I have a more advanced kid and I have a kid who's on a struggling side in any specific drill, I can stick the advanced kid with the struggling kid, and even though the advanced kid isn't getting as much out of the drill as the less advanced kid, he's getting even more out of it because he's thinking about what he's doing, and he's progressively trying to talk about it, communicate it. Like, he's constantly thinking about it, and he's not just going through the motions. Um,
Yep.
it's really hard when you're in league, especially because there's so many different play styles and ways to play the game. There is, a meta, but everyone plays the game differently. You look at any pro team, every pro team has different habits or different things they like based off of personal preference. There is overall a perfect way to play the game, but there isn't a single five-man team in the world who plays a perfect game of League of Legends. It's it's really hard to think about a way you can coach in League when you're duoing if you're not playing down.
Yeah.
Um,
And that I agree with you on that. So I think it's kind of less douchey. I mean, I don't know if it's more douchey or more or less to sort of be boosting to a certain extent, but I always treat it as a learning experience for both myself and the person that I'm working with. You know what I mean? And it's always going to be beneficial if you have that person to sort of bounce ideas with and guide and direct to make those plays that you got going on more innate.
on the boosting topic, I feel like if in your case you're a plat player, your friend was gold, that's about a one elo
Can you
difference.
repeat that? Can you repeat that? I don't think I don't think that people know that I got the plat like very recently.
Well,
So
didn't you hit plat at the end of the
I
last
did
season
it.
too?
I did, but it didn't feel like this.
All right.
It
All right.
didn't
Well,
feel
I'll
like.
say it again so you can bathe in a
Oh,
little more. So
oh,
you are a plat level
oh,
player,
oh
and
my God.
your friend.
Yes.
You said your friend was gold when he stopped playing.
I think so. He was high silver,
High
something like
silver,
that.
gold, and your Smurfs around that, right? Your silver gold placed, I'm guessing, or
He
not your Smurf, your
is.
secondary account.
I'm with you on that. Let me double check. I'm in silver 2 promos to silver 1. If I win the next one, I get up to silver 1.
And that's like another thing. So he was. You're not boosting an iron player and just
No,
carrying them for free, and I think that's
absolutely
that's
not.
a big difference. Um, if you're playing with someone that you couldn't duo with on your main, uh, which I guess in this case you couldn't because he had to make a new account, or maybe he bought an account illegally.
I
Uh,
can't remember. I think he bought it, but it is what it is. I think everybody does that.
I didn't because I'm a good boy.
I know you are a beast. You bought it at all the way up to 30, but
Well,
fuck that shit.
I mean, there was a time where I forgot my login for my main, and I made a secondary account, and I got it to like level 22. So I only had to go 8 levels in bot games, but it was still a mess. I don't think there's a difference between boosting and then playing lower with someone around your skill. Where I think one, you'll progress faster because you'll drop less games naturally, because you're playing with comms usually. Um, you'll learn faster because you're at similar skill levels. So even though you are at similar skill levels, you have two people. Rarely will they see eye to eye on every call in a game, and that's always you can always talk about that after, or like after a game, or right after a play. Like, well, I didn't think that was the right call here. What I think we should have done, and then you can note it and talk about it later, however you and your person want to do it.
He
I think.
usually listens to me. I mean, like that's another thing is there's an understood pecking order in that situation. He's like, look, you're the better player. I'm gonna follow your shot calls. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And after they work out, because like I said, because I don't have to, I'm not in platinum. Play works on, where's the next play, what's the next objective, what's this. There's this sense of urgency of like, oh my god, I got to be here, I got to do this, I've got to maximize all the optimal things that I need to do. What's the most optimal play, what is it, I got to go. Down there, number one, I don't care about the account as much, so I'm not playing as much to win. Does that make sense? So I can take a moment to be like, okay, so we went here for this reason, and this is why I made this call, because we saw the jungler here, and I knew that we could go do this, and this is why this is important. You know what I mean? I have that relaxed sensibility that I don't have in a game. You know what I mean? It's just like coaches are going to stop a play in practice and be like, hey, you've got to do this right. They're not going to call a timeout in the middle of a fucking high stakes game to be like, you need to do this. It's a completely different animal. So I look at it as a practice arena that's just better bots. You know what I mean? And if I win, I win. There's no such thing as winning practice. Like that's what I like about another account. Is I just look at it as a practice account. I'm not judging myself on it. I don't have any emotional attachment to it. This is an arena for me to get better and help other people get better, so that again I can get better and get better at helping other people get better. I think I said that right.
I think we see eye to eye on a lot of things. I'm really hesitant to say that I agree with having a secondary account with no like attachment, or that you're not necessarily playing to win. Now you're not playing to lose, obviously.
Well, it's not that I'm not playing to win. It's that I do not have to have the same mindset to achieve victory. Does that make sense?
No, yeah,
I can play with my food.
And I agree. I'm hesitant to say that that's a healthy reason to have a secondary account. For the fact that if you get too used to playing with your food, it will become habit again, and you will notice poor performances on your main. I'm not saying that's
you are right. No, 100% agree with you on that. You know what I mean? You've got to practice. People always say practice makes perfect, and that's bullshit. Practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect. So, I feel like I'm very good at being able to approach the game from different levels of like optimization. You know what I mean? If I'm playing on an alternate account, I have a different mind frame already and I don't play it enough to where I think these habits can be detrimental, but I do think that's a solid warning that you can be careful, because you can develop those bad habits.
Yeah, I think like one thing, I don't want to harp on this like too much longer, but I really want to stress the fact that mindset, if you're gonna use a second account to practice on, is probably the most important thing. So I'm known as a very toxic person
No.
on League of Legends, despite never being chat banned, never being chat restricted, ever. So I don't know what anyone means by I'm toxic. I'm very vocal with my emotions. And I mean, a lot of it's just spur of the moment stuff, but that's for another episode of Toxicity. Maybe I'll be allowed to
the next episode on Toxicity.
Maybe I'll be allowed on the next episode of Tilt Mitigation.
I'll get System of a Down for that. We'll have a special guest to talk about Toxicity.
We'll bring in a therapist or a sports psychologist, and we'll fix Astros live on an episode.
That's going to be a multi-part serial podcast, 10-part episode.
That's a 10-year series right there.
I don't know if we've got the server space.
That's a Netflix special. But I did focus a lot. I think I have become a little bit less toxic, and I have kind of cleansed myself a little bit where I'll type and then I'll just hit escape and not send the message. But I still get the satisfaction of typing what I'm going to say. And there are some times where, it's just a really good thing and I have to hit enter. But mindset, if you're going to use a second account, is by far the most important thing to a second account. Yes, it's not your main and your rank doesn't matter as much in comparison. And yes, your opponents are easier, but that's no reason to go on autopilot. And that is the worst habit you will generate if you abuse smurfing or playing on a second account.
I'm with you on that. So I think the pros are Number one, you can treat it as a practice environment and work on things at a slower pace of game that's not as high stakes. Another pro is you can sort of, if you know you're on tilt but you still want to play in a more competitive fashion, um, that can provide you with an escape, to where you can get your league fixed without um, wrecking your elo on your main while you're on tilt. And it can provide you with an environment to help other people and through coaching, and teaching, learning things of your own. And I think the cons that you talked about are spot on with, you can develop these bad habits. You can sort of it can become a crutch. It can lead to complacency and creep up on your optimal plays on your main. Any other cons that you could think of?
Um, if you're gonna leave it in a low elo, I'd recommend never touching it. I think using it as a way just to stomp, or get that league fix and feel that 1v9 moment is really counterintuitive of to what you're actually doing. Because when you think about it, if I'm a plat level player and I go and get a penta in bronze or silver, like that penta in plat is maybe a triple kill, maybe a quadra kill, maybe, like, it might not even be a triple kill. It might only end up in a double kill. I might die for doing the play. Um, so I really hate Smurfs who leave their accounts in low elo just to go and stomp a couple games. I don't care if you're tilted. I know as league players we don't usually care about anyone else in the game, but smurfing and playing while tilted or being toxic at low elo, it really does nothing. You're talking shit to players who are lower skill level than you, and you know that going into it. So going and telling that the Master Yi player in Iron 5 is a dumb idiot who should probably turn on his monitor or throw it in the shower with him, like, you're getting nothing out of that. There's no benefit to it. Um, I recommend not typing in low elo if you're gonna have a second account. I recommend just not typing, muting all, um, and just focusing on everything that you're doing. I understand the argument, well, if I have a secondary account, I can play in a competitive environment while not affecting, my main account if I'm not feeling 100% that day, or I'm not playing 100% that day. And my argument to that is playing a normal on your normal is going to have higher MMR than your Smurf account will. So how competitive is that Smurf account game really going to be?
The issue with that is that I think you're more likely to see a Soraka junglers.
I
You know
mean,
what I mean?
I hear a lot of people say that, and you do see a little bit more off meta shit in normal, but I don't
That's not off
see.
meta. That's troll. There's a
No.
difference between off meta and
Well,
troll.
and that's the thing. I don't see a lot of that even when I play Norm solo. And if
That's true.
you're looking for a competitive environment, playing at low elo on a secondary account, I'd say is less beneficial than playing in a pre-mades 5 with scattered elos. You're still playing down, but you get the actual coaching aspect and being in comms with a few of them that you don't get from playing solo on a Smurf account.
I'm with you. At the end of the day, people are Astros and I have our opinions, and that's what they are. If you end up having a second account, I hope we gave you something to think about. But at the same time, do whatever you want to do as long as you're not being a super dick. Don't talk shit to players and use your advantage, because that's not good for the community. And certainly don't be doing that shit if you got a Lola clan tag on your alternate account, because that makes us look bad.
That's why I don't use the Lola clan tag. Because if
Smart
I am toxic,
man.
I don't want to be a bad boy. Uh,
In
what were you gonna say?
I no, I think we've covered about everything, and I've been bad about rambling on. So I think about at the hour mark.
We are. We're at 55 minutes, but there is one more thing we need to cover. Um, so if
Fake
you
tits. Oh no, that's
if you listen to the last episode with Blake and Ponderous, they read an email directed towards me. Uh, it was written on April Fool's, so we are unaware of its integrity, as a serious document of fan mail. But we did receive another email recently. Ponderous was not available due to a birthday dinner celebration to read it for us.
His girlfriend turned 13.
Yikes! Yeah, let's just not put that narrative out there. Uh, and I asked Blake to send me it so I could have someone read it on the podcast. Double Lift has agreed to read it. So this was sent to us.
So much pressure.
The header was Astros fans are people too. And I know this is a true fan because he put a Z instead of an S.
He didn't capitalize the BK.
Well, the BK isn't super important, and I don't even know if I usually capitalize it because it's not in my Discord name. My Discord name is just Astros. So,
okay.
The BK
I
was.
think he can work on his fandom. I think we need to do a review, do some replays of his fandom to see holes in his Astros.
I think we should. I think we should. I think. I mean, this is by far the highest. Like, if I were to grade all the fan emails I've gotten, this is by far the highest. I have read it, but I'm gonna let Double Sniffed read it to you.
This is low diamond fandom, but we'll, just to give you all an idea of how that works. All right, Astros fans are people too. To be fair, and I'm going to read this dramatically. To be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand Astros BK. His humor is extremely subtle, and without a solid grasp of Yatsuo play, most of the jokes will go over a typical listener's head. There's also his nihilistic outlook, which is deftly woven into his characterization. His personal philosophy draws heavily from Teemo XXD play. His fans understand this stuff. They have the intellectual capacity to truly appreciate the depths of his macro play, to realize that it's not just funny, it says something deep about life and his relationship with his father. Oh my God. As a consequence, people who dislike Astros BK truly are idiots, and R was in all caps. Of course, they wouldn't appreciate, for instance, the humor in his existential catchphrase, "Why am I so shit at this fucking game?" which itself is a cryptic reference to Sven's LCS finals play. I'm smirking right now, just imagining one of those addle-pated simpletons scratching their heads in confusion as Astros' genius AD Morgana top unfolds itself into their champion select screens. What fools! How I pity them. And the little crying emoji. I think it's the happy crying. And yes, by the way, I do have an Astros BK tattoo. And no, you cannot see it. It's for the Astros BK fans' eyes only. And even then, they have to demonstrate that they're within 5 LP points, parentheses Iron 5, by the way, of my own, preferably lower, beforehand. Nothing personal, kid. I don't know if I read the last part right. Oh, it was sent from their iPhone, too.
Oh.
What the fuck? That's the end of the email. Addle-pated? I don't see many words.
I'm really glad. I'm like really glad you read this because
the fuck does that mean?
I didn't know half the words. And
addle-pated.
Honestly,
being mixed up. Holy shit, what a great word. Kudos.
This just proves the intellectual capacity that my fans have.
Hmm?
I want to start off by saying that whoever this is, please PM me on Discord because I love you. I don't need to see the Astros BK tattoo. I completely believe you.
I don't believe it.
But if you do have one and you send it to me, I'll gift you $50 worth of RP. But holy shit, the way this was written, and you know how I know this is a true intellectual being? When he says, the truly are idiots, most people there would capitalize the idiots, right?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Not him.
300 IQ capitalizes the R.
R, yeah.
You preference the... I can't even grasp.
I think what you're trying to say is that he highlights the metaphysical state of being an idiot more than the descriptor. Yeah, so in the category of being an idiot, it's not important what category you're in, it's the R-ness. the level of idiocy, the level of being and belonging to that category stretched or stressed rather. I think that's what Aristotle would say.
Honestly, I wouldn't be. I feel like this was written by some like high level honors college student, 6.0.
There's some issues with his philosophical terminology. For instance, he praises your nihilism, which is, the belief that nothing is important. It's a subcategory of existential, um, which a lot of people cling to. I was a philosophy major, so, but anybody who really champions nihilism is not going to take the effort to write this kind. So I'm a little bit skeptical there. But then again, that's just the praiseworthiness of his fandom. This is real fan shit right here, taking this time here to do that. That's really my biggest gripe. Is that, I mean, fucking nihilist, dude. Say what you will about the tenets of National Socialism. At least it's an ethos.
One thing I do have to. This isn't like a quick one where it's like, people just don't understand Astros. He's smart. He's hilarious. We love Astros. Like, this looks like something that, like, if I turned this into my English teacher in high school, they wouldn't think I wrote it.
I actually would have written this about you in the middle school bathroom wall. I think that's what I would have.
Honestly, I hope I hit that level of fandom where I am
I think you're well
being noted in bathrooms around
Yeah.
high schools and middle schools.
If we go to the LCS finals, I'll print up stickers of this and we'll just put them all over. Great.
I don't understand where the AD Morgana came from. I don't think I've ever played it.
You've been keeping that on the down. I know that's your pocket pick.
If this was a real OG fan and he went back in my match history long enough, there was a game of on-hit Zillion Jungle I played.
Oh shit.
So I'm 100% win rate on unhit Zillion Jungle. It was insane.
Damn, poor Killzil thought he was the top Zillion player on the podcast. Just dethroned him right there.
I mean, I don't want to bring it up, but
he's thinking it. Somebody might as well say it so he can get some commiseration out of this.
I
feel your pain, Killzil.
I don't know how to say this name because it's like a bunch of letters and numbers mixed, but I'm gonna call him Pill Block. In Twitch chat says Astros BK for president.
I'm for that actually. I'm fine with placing our president. That's just me. It's just me.
I mean, I think we should.
I think that people that voted for Donald Trump were addlepated in their understanding of what a good presidential candidate is.
The only other thing I have an issue with is, it's been a little while since I played Yasuo, but I do have the understanding of Yasuo play, so, it's not completely off, but I do change my role and main champion every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
Roughly.
Every fortnight. The original Fortnite player.
I love these emails.
This is the issue that I have. He says something deep about his life and his relationship with his father. I thought it was your stepdad, Marty, Donald, David, Jerry, whatever his name is. What's your stepdad's name?
My real dad's name is John.
Okay. But it's your stepdad that's always on the stream, right?
No, that's my real dad.
Oh, shit. You call your real dad by his first name?
Yeah, me and my grandfather.
Fucking balls on this Astros. Never mind.
No, we have a really, me and my dad were, pretty tight. Me and my grandfather were pretty tight. It was just kind of like a joke that we made up because, my dad's name is John, my grandfather's name is John, my great-grandfather's name is John. He didn't name me John, so I call myself John.
Boom.
It's a weird dynamic.
Way to take power into your own hands.
I did. I'm really thinking about for my birthday one year changing my name to John, but
just for 1 year.
I mean, probably just for a day.
Just
but I don't know how it works.
I think you just go down to Chuck E. Cheese. You got to win 6,000 tickets, and it'll just change your name for a day. Pretty sure that's legally how that's done where I live. So you better get good at skee ball. I think that's going to be a long-term investment.
I think it's worth it though.
I think you got a shot.
For the meme purposes, I think it's worth it.
All right. Do we have any announcements? There's an ARAM tournament coming up. Do you want to tell people about that? Because I'm not too up to date on the details.
I mean, I wasn't really involved in setting it up.
What the hell, Astro? Way to drop the ball, bud.
I mean, I know I'm a disappointment.
All right, first Wednesday of May. I think it starts at 8 CST instead of 9 CST. Check the Discord. If you're not,
It starts at 7 p.m. CST.
7 p.m. CST. So it's okay. So it's 8 my time, Eastern time. ARAM tournament. That stands for all random, all middle. In case you don't know, so there's no picking teams or strategies. Well, there are teams. There's a sign up, but I think it may have been closed. But if you act real quick like money, you can get into that tournament or at least be a substitute for that particular tournament. And those are really fun. We might have some prizes for folks, but we might not.
I'm pretty sure we will. I think they have
okay.
I think they have it figured out.
How are we going to get the prizes? How are we going to pay for these prizes, Astros?
Well, we use money from our Patreon.
What's that?
It's a app, or I guess you can do it on your computer. That you can go and you can pledge, $1, $2, $5.
$25.
$100.
$5 million.
Monthly donations to go towards the podcast. It's been really great. You guys cover all our generic costs. You've helped us upgrade audio equipment between mics. You've helped get people webcams. Eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to get enough to put the LCS podcast up on an actual streaming service.
Very low priority for our Patreon funds, but yeah, no, we'll keep stringing you along.
I get $1 a month right now.
That's right.
Costs $40.
For the price of a cup of coffee, you can listen to Astros BK talk about the LCS.
It's literally only me because Danger left me.
Well, I believe I was on that podcast. I believe you were the one who did the leaving on that regard, but I'll let you and your therapist work that one out.
Well, no, he left. He was like, I can't do the LCS podcast anymore. It's breaking into my.
Was that before or after you fired him as your duo partner?
That was
out
like
of curiosity.
That was after.
Oh, how soon after that?
A couple weeks. A couple weeks.
Okay, fair enough.
I think he broke up with me like last week. Or a week, 2 weeks ago.
Unbelievable.
So I did the last episode solo. I thought it was still a pretty good episode. I'll do this episode solo as well.
I will never listen to it. But no, I wish you the best of luck with it. No, I do need to listen to that because the LCS finals were pretty legit. Enjoyed watching them. So we hit Patreon. We hit the tournament that's coming up. We have community games, usually Wednesdays. It's going to be replaced by the ARAM tournament the first Wednesday of May. But typically we have community games on Wednesday nights. Play with the folks. We're trying to get better about shoutcasting. We need some more folks to get access to the Twitch, so we can. We've had some issues getting those casted, but we are working on that, trying to make that more of a priority for folks. It's just been unlucky as of late, but that's still something that we're doing. And that is Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. CST, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You want to get there about 10 minutes ahead of time, get in the Discord and hop in the hall. First 10 people there are going to be given priority.
So I do have an announcement about this. So the community games have been managed very sloppily. So I have gone back to locking the rooms. They will unlock 5 minutes ahead of time. It's first come, first served. Another rule is you can't force someone or try and pressure someone into leaving. You can ask. If, say, you have a buddy you want to play with and, you were the 10th guy in, you can ask. If they say no, you don't try and, peer pressure. Yeah, these are all about having fun. If you don't make it into the first game and there's not enough for 2 games, move up into the hall, the first one, sit in there. And then when people are getting out of the game, you will have first priority in going into the next one. I'll make sure that stays. I've been kind of lurking and making sure things have been going on pace in terms of game setup wise.
Periscoping.
So I've gone back to locking the rooms. You can get in there 5 minutes ahead of time. And yeah, if you were hesitant about coming out, you're more than welcome to. We're starting to we're creeping up on being able to play a second game. We just need a few more people to show up if you're interested in playing just some fun 5v5 games. We try our best to balance the teams based off of what shows up. They're fun. It's more competitive than just playing like solo queue. You're in comms, make some new friends. You know, it's a good time.
Just hop in the Discord. If you don't know what the Discord link is, you can go to www.lolapodcast.com, find the Discord link, as well as relevant information. I just realized I'm not listed as a host website, so that.
I guess I don't know. Am I?
Oh my god. Oh, okay, you are. Shit.
I don't think I'm listed in the YouTube description as a host though.
Man, we get shit on. We
I
get
know.
shit on here. We're fucking pulling the weight on this whole goddamn podcast.
I know. Papa's on vacation. Ponderous hasn't shown up in 3 years
Playing Cat in the
besides
Hat.
yesterday.
Back in Cat in the Hat.
You know, this.
Blake is at the Corn Museum studying corn.
We should probably riot.
I think so.
You want to just?
I think so. We should just take over.
We should
Take
just
over.
never upload this episode.
Yeah, we should get the get them to give us like the Twitch passwords and all that shit so we can lock them out. It'll be like an EVE Online play.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
Evil Corporation takeover.
of
Join us next week for the Astros BK Double Sniff podcast because Lola will no longer be around anymore.
League of Double Astros Sniff.
Double
Double.
Astros. Sounds like the name of Sir Mix-a-Lot's revival album. He's making a comeback. Double Astro.
Jesus Christ.
Hey man, he likes big butts. Can't lie.
I love Lola podcast, and I can't.
Aw, what a fan. All right, you got anything else for him?
No, if you guys want to send us some more emails, you want to give us some reviews, you can do that. You can email us. The email's on the website as well.
If you want VOD reviews, hit me up in the Discord, Double Sniffed. If you're a jungler and you want to take a look at some stuff, I'll be happy to look at your VOD reviews. Just send me a message.
You can message me too. I've done a few. I'm going to start recording them when I do them and uploading them as well.
All right, we've done like 25 minutes of announcements. Time to
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.